All time zones observed. It is wonderful to be here, part of this amazing conference, just listening to all the contributions since we started yesterday, today, and I think that everybody here can agree that it's fair to say that we are doing well. Because what we said here is that setting the agenda for engagement, basically sort of saying, how do we engage with this very interesting space? And the fact that we're talking about church and politics, that would suppose that in that idea that church and politics could interact, there is a perceived contradiction. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an issue. But I will not be the one talking much this afternoon. I will be introducing my panel. The organizers have told me very many things. The only thing they haven't told me is why there are only ladies on my panel. and I am not complaining. I just made the observation. All right, so let me introduce the panel here. Professor Sambili, thank you very much. She has set the stage with very relevant practical examples. I think the idea of this is to be as practical as possible. That's been the spirit since we started. So I will start from the other side. Professor Margaret Jebii Muthwii. She is known to some of us, the Vice Chancellor currently of Pan-African University. She's a linguist and a professor at that. And I think that it is fair to say that she's well read. Currently, she's engaged in very many other activities here, and she sits on several boards. I can just give you a small brief that at the moment, Professor Muthwii sits on the board of the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Services. You know that. And there she is actually chairing the audit committee in that particular place. She's also a member of the board of the Inter-Universities Council of Eastern Africa, where she chairs the Planning, Finance, Human Resource Committee, and several others that I could mention. And she says, actually, she also has some experience in politics, and she'll be sharing with that in this session. Next there, we have a young lady. She was a national sensation here in Kenya a couple of years ago when at the age of 23, she threw the hat in the ring, as it were, for the Nairobi senatorial election. And I am talking about Suzanne Silantoi Lengewa. Many Kenyans would know her, and this afternoon we will hear a lot more about her. She's also engaged in health policy advocacy, and she will tell us what her experiences has been. Professor Sambili, without a doubt, you've heard from her this afternoon. No need to reintroduce her. If there's any aspect of her introduction that hasn't come out, she'll be free to say. Next to me, last but not least, Linah Jebii Kilimo, again, a household name, currently Chief Administrative Secretary, Minister of Public Service and Gender. She has been quite involved in the anti-FGM campaigns. That's how we first got to know her. She is also a two-term Member of Parliament, Margaret East, and she has quite a wide range of experience in that regard. So, ladies, I will not have the privilege of saying ladies and gentlemen this afternoon, so ladies, let's get this conversation going. I have to train myself, right? I understand now what Professor Sambili was talking about, you know, where people were talking about the leadership of the skirt. And we have seen amazing things done by our women leaders, even here in Kenya. So I'm really privileged to be here. And Mheshimiwa Kilimo, let me start with you, because I mean, like Professor Sambili, you've also been involved in politics, and those challenges that she talked about, maybe very quickly you could tell us what your experience was as someone of faith, but also who's getting into a space that was described very aptly by Professor Sambili, where it is survival for the craftiest, she said.
Thank you very much. Yes, exactly what Professor Sambili spoke is all the challenges that we face. It is steeper climbing up the political ladder for ladies, I think, than the men. what she has gone through, I've also gone through. However, the challenges are to be faced with the truth. There is a lot of bad language being used, but then if you just reply with a smile, then they will think, is she normal or she's not normal? So it's like, and you also pretend as though you have not heard. You don't have to respond to everything that you hear them say. So it was not easy for me getting into politics, but mine was a call. I sincerely felt that it was a call because of the infighting or cross-border fighting between Pokot and Marakwet. People were dying all the time, and I couldn't hear a voice talk about the challenges happening in the Kerio Valley. And I was encouraged or persuaded by the words of Jesus that if you don't rise up, the stones would rise up and talk. And every time I said, and if I don't, how will I feel if these stones start talking about the challenges of these people? And so I got into politics, and mine was tough because I was in the opposition. The major party was KANU, and I came on DP, and there was too much campaign against me. But before then, I must say that the work that I did for the people voluntarily, with a platform created by World Vision and SNV to translate the insecurity matters there in the local language, which I offered freely, they were able to see between the two who is telling us the truth. And I think that is how I won.
And we'll talk about the truth as you said it, because obviously we have to get ways of overcoming some of these challenges. Prof, let me come to you on the other side. Professor Muthwii, Professor Sambili talked about problems of entry, and I think he had some interesting things to say when we were speaking on the side about how to prepare before you jump into the ring.
Thank you, Joy, Ageyo, for the opportunity. I had the privilege to run for parliamentary position, Member of Parliament, in 2013. It was a time when there was such opportunity in Kenya. It was a new Kenya in many ways after the new constitution. And one looking at what was going on within Kenya, and then also looking at what was going on within the rural areas that we are a part of. So a lot of the things that Professor Sambili has mentioned is needs that she observed in society. Accountability for resources, glaring, it was absolutely glaring. So the reasons why she went to Parliament may be slightly different from mine, but I actually saw opportunity in the nation for women to join in. That also tells you something that I think over years, I grew up knowing that women are not necessarily restricted. They shouldn't be restricted from engaging, entering, participating in leadership. So when that happened at the political space, I thought, whoa, yes. But also let me mention that my background, I come from a family where politics was part of the cup of tea. My father was in it all the day, my cousins and on and on. So it wasn't something strange. So when this opportunity came, I'm thinking, why should so-and-so or so-and-so's continue messing up the constituency and especially the opportunities for the youth? I think that's where my passion was. So mentioning, to your question, Joy Ageyo, I got in there. And now, in retrospect, having seen the things I saw, actually in politics, you see things, you hear things, you experience things you have never even imagined existed. So if you came from a sheltered, nice Christian home, my goodness, you see things. So in retrospect, looking back, I think everybody who goes into politics, please don't get into politics. Don't go into politics. Plan to go into politics. And there's a big difference. Just like anything you are doing now, seriously, you planned and you prepared to get in there. My planning and preparing probably was the weakest link in what happened to me, why I lost. And I think of when I've evaluated the way we did it on the field, we did it with gusto and a lot of whatever we did. But my planning prior could have been done much better. Preparation. I think it is Simon Bavey yesterday, when he was talking, he said, getting to know those nuances of the things that happens in politics becomes a great advantage. If you go in and you don't even know that people will lie in a particular way, like what Helen was talking about, boxes being filled and on and on. If you don't know anything of it, it will happen in your eyes and you wouldn't know what they have done. Thank you.
All right, Suzanne, let's come to you. I mean, how was it for you? Because I want us to begin to appreciate the practical experience there before we even theorize about what could be done.
All right. As Joe said, I got into politics when I was 23. That was in the last election, 2017, for Senate. I can summarize my experience in one word. It was very interesting, quite interesting, both good and also bad. First of all, the reason why I even got into politics in the first place was out of frustration. And I think a lot of young people can relate with that frustration feeling. A lot of times we feel stuck in various spaces that we're in. Either you've finished your degree and probably you didn't get a job, or you're in a specific sector, you're trying to get a tender, you're not able to get it because of corruption, you're unable to access maybe medical facilities because of 1, 2, 3, maybe you're just broke for a couple of reasons. And so we are a frustrated lot. And my frustration stemmed from the health sector. I work in the health development space. And so at the time there were doctor strikes on and off. There was lots of corruption cases. And so I was really frustrated. And I decided, okay, I think I want to do something about it. And that was the best way for me to get to do something about this. So I threw myself in and I decided to do something about it. And that's even why I went for Senate, because of the whole aspect of devolution and healthcare and how that's connected. So the campaign trail was quite interesting. I want to say, like, the first time I went to campaign, I went to Kibra. And I thought Kibra was, familiar territory. I went to Moi Girls High School in Nairobi, which is just next to Kibra. And I had quite a number of friends who live in Kibra. So I'd been there quite a number of times. So I thought, okay, this is familiar. But the first time I actually went there and I looked at Kibra as a problem that I need to fix, I think that's when it dawned on me, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I trying to do? But it was quite interesting as to how people, the reception of people. I was doing more like a door-to-door campaign. I didn't go to every door, but I went to spaces and I'd interact with people physically. And so people received me quite well, actually. They took interest and wondered, what is this small, tiny little girl trying to tell us? And I explained myself in various places that I went to, and people took interest in just being like, also, actually other random people can get into politics. You don't have to be from a political family or from a specific tribe to try and buy in this country. And I think that's what people took interest in. And it taught me that people are receptive to a new thing. I think we've gotten to a point in Kenya where we're like, okay, we're seeing the same leaders all the time. We're looking for something new, and people were quite receptive of it. And I like to believe that that's the Spirit of God. So that was the first interesting thing. The reception was great. The difficulty was nobody ever told me how draining elections are. physically, emotionally, financially. It's completely draining. Because if you're doing a campaign where you're not trying to bribe anyone, where you're using your own resources, you'll end up walking a lot. Maybe you'll go days where you're not able to eat in some places, you're not able to do some things. And so it's quite exhausting physically and then emotionally as well, because people will say so many things. They'll look at you and be like, you're 23 years old, why don't you go get married or have a career? Instead of trying to get into politics. When you're done, you can come and retire here. Such things are discouraging. And yet, as a frustrated Kenyan, I'm trying to do something about the country. And so it has a balance. But at the end of the day, I chose to look at the 32,000 people who voted for me, and I was like, these people actually believed in something different. And that gives me hope for the country.
Do you know why you lost?
Yes, of course. I do know why I lost. I like to think I was an acquired taste. I was an independent candidate. And we know the role of political parties in the country. I'm also from a minority community, which would be like, that doesn't play a role in Nairobi, but the tribal aspect of our politics affects our cities just as much as it affects our rural areas. So there's that aspect as well. If I started earlier, probably I'd have reached more people, maybe changed more people's minds. That's something I could have done differently as well. Yeah.
Thank you. And Professor Sambili, that's a good way to segue into a deeper section of this conversation, coming back to the question of faith. Is it an asset or a liability to go out there and say, you know what, I'm a Christian and I will fix all these things, please vote for me? Or should one even do that?
Thank you. I think it is an asset because it is good to be true, to be yourself. So I think it is important to confess that you are a Christian. And of course, if you are running in a community constituency where you've grown up, I was born in Mogotio, I've grown up there, I'm married there, they know me. It's good, it is good to stand up. It is like when you are in high school, confess your faith, then many challenges will evaporate. So it is important to identify yourself. When I think back, because I ran in 2007, all those challenges I was telling you were mostly in 2007, when they were saying we cannot vote for a skirt. There were pastors who really stood with me. They came home and prayed and and talked to people. I think it is important. The only thing I will say, listening, and of course, even the challenges about that we get in the field, especially as women, the abuses, they say all sorts of things. What I would say is practice selective deafness. Selective deafness. Usisikie, ufanye ujasikia. Because if you think about it, you will get so annoyed, you will get so stressed. And as my sister Suzanne said, campaigning is very demanding. I remember many times, you would go because the constituency I ran in is very huge. 600 square kilometers. You have to go everywhere. I remember one time going throughout the night, and one of our children had accompanied me. She was so shocked. At one point, she was just feeding me with an orange. I was so hungry, but I had to listen to these people and answer the question. So it is very strenuous. So practice selective deafness, so you are not discouraged, and also be careful about the supporters. When you get into politics, the moment people hear you want to stand, many people come forward, want to help you. But many of those people, unfortunately, may be opportunists. They just want to take advantage, get money, be like the leaders. They may be a package, because maybe they have their own weaknesses. So one has to check things. What they tell you, you also need to check up with other people. It's a lot of work. One needs to write a thesis
Prof,
about running for politics. A PhD thesis.
Why I'm asking this is, at what point does the faith count? I mean, when you go out there, so there's tribe, there is political parties, all of these things. Is there any weight that your faith would have, that people would say like, okay, this one is a Christian, let's vote for her even though she belongs to a party that we don't like in these parts?
I think looking back, it actually counts when you have worked, when you have actually been seen to do, because many politicians give amazing manifestos. We will do this, we'll do this. Many of it is exaggerated. When I look back, when I ran for the second term, I ran in a very unpopular party that time. But because they had seen what I had done and my faith, I think that supported me. But it is good to be real. Have your feet on the ground. Be yourself. Even the people will identify with you.
The Honorable Kilimo, what's your view of this? I mean, the political parties are very strong here. In fact, I know, for example, a friend of mine in politics who was told, we really like you, but that party where you are in, we are simply not there, so sorry. So here you are, you're a believer, you hold firm onto your Christian faith, your Christian values, but at the same time, you happen, for whatever reason, to be in a party that's not popular in that place. How do you navigate that, and do you think it will count, your faith will have weight, so that people can actually prefer you to the next guy?
I believe that your faith is paramount before the political party, because when you have your faith, what you believe in, there is a private conversation you have with God before you go out there. There is that which you will feel that those who are with you are greater than those whom you are talking to. I am one who has stood in political parties that are not popular in that area. And after every campaign, I think I had more questions to God than to the wananchi, and a lot of negotiation telling him, okay, I've done my part, please help me over here. Or going before them, you have to I really counted on Christians. I must say my first time to stand, I had women who are always on their knees praying for me that if I go, I may get acceptance before I reach that place. I really want to say that Christianity and politics, really it does work. For you as a Christian going into politics there, it doesn't matter the party. My second term, I was the only MP in parliament in that political party. Don't forget, Christians, that as you go out there to market yourselves, you also have angels on assignment to work with you. I viewed my campaign, my political journey, more of a spiritual placement, that I needed to be there to do some assignment that God maybe wanted me to be there. So there was a lot of internal energy, inner energy, than what I saw outside there. It's not about the political party. It's how you package yourself and convince people. Because when you analyze what is politics, it's about power, authority, and influence. So the power and authority, it's guaranteed. That's what you're given. But the influence, how are you able to influence these people to believe the messaging that you have given them, and what is it in that which you're going to give? So as a Christian going into politics, like my sister, Professor Sambile had said earlier, you also must have done some work. Do some voluntary work. It is a process. You can't just start as an event today and say, I'm going into politics. You have that nudge of politics in you, then start going out there, let people know who you are. Don't just go to a congregation, and I like the church, because in the church, that's where you have many people who come. when I'm mentoring people, I tell them, when you go to church and you know you want to stand, when they say, do we have a visitor here? Don't shy. Stand up and say, here I am the visitor, and say, I am so and so, and I'm visiting this church today. After that, don't run away. Stay around and say hello to a few people over there, because it's about marketing yourself and how you package yourself.
I was thinking of what Professor Kibwana said yesterday. You remember? He actually went to school to be able to, and then come to politics. There's something he went to train. And for him, he actually took theological training because he wanted to combine his legal and theological to do what he was doing. And that's why we heard him speak to us on the day yesterday. So I've noticed that most of the time, those who actually succeed plan to get into that space. Planning to get into that space includes what Linah has just said. You engage with community. One of the things I faced, I come from Rift Valley. I'm married in Eastern, Machakos. So I left Rift Valley 36 years ago or so. I've been more here and there. And then you go to campaign there. And then they look at you and they say, so who are you? And then they say, ametoka wapi? Now wengine, younger people would say, but we married you away. And these are boys of barely 22, people who are fit to be my children. But they stand and say, lakini, we married you off. So I'm just saying, had there been a strategy and a planning that engaged the community several years down the line, what my sisters are saying, to eliminate those kind of postures and questions. Actually, that was one of the cards they used on me. Again and again. So plan to go into politics. Get to understand more of political space before you go into political space. Equip yourself, engage community, let them know, at least have your personal track record. I used to use my track record a little because I was in boards, but that wasn't enough. Many people did not see even those actions that I did in the boards, And when I was doing the boards, I was not consciously building anything. I was just serving in the boards. Yeah. But apparently for politics, you need to have planned so that every move is carefully done. So that by the time you arrive there to say, I'm standing, you are not introducing yourself. People know you. That is one of the things of preparedness that I learned.
And I think that we'll come back to you in a moment. We need to take a few questions, a few comments. I think one of the MCs is going to help me here. Oh, great, lovely.
Thank you so much, Joe. And this is quite amazing. And just an interesting note, as Joe has been noting that he didn't have a chance to say, ladies and gentlemen, all the panelists have a connection with Rift Valley. All of them, including, I think Professor have written something about Kalenjin dialect, some change. I was seeing some of your articles. So there may be something about godly women in leadership and Rift Valley. Maybe. Now, time for questions. I think I want to balance with a few people who may not have seen people are raising their hands vigorously, if that is possible. They can even raise their legs. Allow me to start from the back. I'm seeing a lady and a gentleman. Can you allow me to start from there for now? Then kindly, very quickly, and as they're on their way here, I'm getting some questions online. Phyllis Salano is asking a very, very heavy question that women aspiring into politics are normally told to be prepared to be undressed in public. What's your advice for such women? I think that one, so at least you can come. And then one more person is asking, now that we know that, he's asking Professor Sambili that now that we know the clan plays a role in endorsing candidates in this country, how do Christians navigate that tricky aspect of getting a buy-in from the community, but also you understand the theological challenges that come with being endorsed, and maybe there's a formula for being endorsed. You need to slaughter something, eat something, wear something. So how do you navigate that? These are two questions. We can take a third one, so that you take all of them at once. Is that okay? Please.
Thank you very much. My name is Waruguru Maina, and I think I wanted to say first, I think Honorable Linah and Samili, you should write a book for us young people to read your experiences and to preserve history. I think my next question is, how do you deal with political financing? Because I think that is such a great aspect of politics for young people, but for us as believers. And one of the books, Global Corruption, has one aspect of one thing that facilitates corruption is campaign financing. So how do you deal with that as a believer?
Okay. Professor Sambili, has the challenge for you to write a book. You will tell us about that, but I think we can take these ones first, right? Yeah? Okay, lovely. So the other thing I think that has been asked is about the question of navigating the clan politics, the clan dynamics in Kenya. For example, there are usually some things that happen, some rituals. You have to become an elder of some sort and wear goat skin, and who knows what else happens in those shrines before it happens, and then maybe go to church the following day. How does that work? I think we'll start with you, Professor Sambili. And then there was a question about, I think, addressing rallies or something. We can address that later.
Okay. Going to, I think, for my own example, no, I did not mix that. Going to the elders and, asking for witch doctors, no, I don't believe that. And I don't think it is right. As a Christian, just go and trust the Lord, as my sister said. But negotiating the clan and the family is very important. I said in my speech that I really had to be patient and wait, because politics is very demanding. Sometimes you go throughout the night campaigning, and it is very important that you have support from your family. And some of the things that I found necessary was, when I'm going into meetings or even after I've won, at 5 o'clock, I just finish meetings and go home. No meetings that are extended. And actually, I found that I was able to get home, and people were also able to get home. Actually, I remember people saying, thank God we have a woman leader. Now our husbands are not getting late, they are not in meetings here and there. And it is good also as a testimony. Keep your family, be a testimony. Can I say about the finances? Politics is very expensive, and as our sister has asked, I thought at first that really, I said, I will talk to these people. I'll tell them I want to help them. It shouldn't be expensive. But thank God, my husband is an economist. He said, Helen, you are joking. We actually ended up selling some property. You have to prepare. You have to prepare to look for money, and you can do fundraisings and be prepared. It is expensive. Now, I cannot be able to, I think I'll let my sister answer the other one. About the book, I think I've got a challenge. I realize there is so much, and it is good to say it as it is. Somebody said, do not tidy up your testimony. Many people, you don't see, I didn't just wake up like this. I'm a real person, grew up in the village, all those challenges, so it's good to write a book, because you need many summits to be able to present all this. I didn't really hear about the undressing. Maybe I'll let my sister answer. Yeah. Clan dynamics are real. In fact, they will, even if you don't, the clansman who said, we cannot be the first to elect as cat, they were feeling I had to convince them by the way I acted. And then eventually, a woman said, let that skirt be a bendera. And actually, I was elected, I was appointed a minister. Clan dynamics are real. Talk to the leaders. Talk to leaders, and they can be men or women or youth. It is good to talk to them and share your agenda, what you want to do. And many people, like what Professor Muthwii has said, that is very serious. They say, kwani ulisahau nini? Si tulikupeana. Unataka nini hapa? So those things, you have to face them by talking to the leaders. And what Mheshimiwa Kilimo said, don't rush. Actually, when I began, they started calling me Chepchirchir, the hurrying one. I just hurry all the time. And that was my undoing at the beginning. Although when I was rigged out, I actually looked for a party. And I ended up being the only MP in that party in Parliament. So I don't think...
Thanks. I want Suzanne to weigh in. She's been waiting for a while.
Okay.
You want to start with the money? You said you didn't have any.
Yes, actually. I raised money through crowdfunding on social media. I put out a poster, told guys, please support my campaign and send money to this number. And I actually raised quite a bit of money in kind and cash. Some people donated a car, some people bought billboards, some people bought posters and t-shirts. And I think a lot of people assume that money that you need in campaign is for bribing people. Well, there's that aspect that people do, which we are not supposed to do. But really, the chunk of campaign funding is your transport. It's how you get from one place to another. It is what your team is going to use to create your campaign to be what it is. And so that's where the aspect of planning does come in. And it's important to recognize that, yes, in as much as we are not supposed to bribe people, we'll need that money to fund the other parts of the campaign for it to work properly. I want to chime into the clan aspect. I come from a community where the clan is really strong. I'm from Samburu, which is in the north. And our clan leaders actually determine who will take leadership in the county. So I didn't vie in Samburu, but I do know that the structures that are there are mainly seen as gatekeepers of sorts. And so we don't necessarily also have to relate clan leaders and elders in these communities as witchcraft or uchawi. It's just a mechanism of gatekeeping that actually works in these communities. And so even as Christians, it's good for us to have wisdom on how to engage them in a manner that is not bribing them, but also just negotiating and just being wise about it. The dynamics for campaigning in Nairobi are quite different also, because we don't have clan leaders in Nairobi, but we do have gatekeepers in different communities within Nairobi. So communities are like slum areas, specific informal settlements will have specific gatekeepers. And so even the negotiation skills in that way, in the wisdom that we request God for to be able to maneuver those dynamics are also really important. And I think I want to say something for young people. Campaigning is hard. and my dear mothers here have talked about being in the community for a while, making sure that you do voluntary work for a while, which is great, and actually that is important. But that may not always be the case for every young person. Young people are out here trying to just get their lives together. And so even asking politicians and people who are trying to get into politics to always be involved 5 years before the elections so that you're able to be elected, sometimes in many young people's cases might be a bit of a stretch for them. And that completely discourages them from getting into politics. And so I think that's something maybe we need to relook and see how we evaluate the leaders that we choose. Is it possible for maybe someone who worked as a banker, as a lawyer, to be evaluated as, oh, you served really well in that office. I think you can do better even here in the office of parliament or whichever other elective office they're going to vie for. So the aspect of criteria, I think, is something we need to think about. And because the church is a big organization, it's a place we can set that kind of agenda to discuss what is the criteria. And I think this was raised in the previous session. What is the criteria that we use to actually elect leaders? But then again, even as we try to have ourselves get involved in politics, we have to realize that there are different methods of engaging in this political space. Yes, some people could be called to vie. That's amazing. But there are these people need people to work in their campaigns. And so people will volunteer of their time, their expertise to work in people's campaigns. That is being involved in politics. People can join political parties. People can be involved in even serving in the IEBC and things like those. So there are various ways in which people can participate. And then finally to vote and be aware of politics, because we're not trying to be ignorant Christians as well. And so those are various ways we can also engage.
All right, yeah. So thank you. And let's keep our responses fast so that we get more questions. Prof, very briefly, if I could see you raising your hand, maybe Professor Muthwii, yes.
Thank you very much. Susan just picked it. Susan just picked what I was saying, what I was going to say, what I was thinking we need to say for this. Because when you hear of church and politics summit is at that level, you know. But you don't get to the summit just like that. You don't start at the summit. You start in various levels as you come. So even what we're talking about, preparing, planning, knowing, exposing ourselves, I think is exactly what Susan just picked it. If you want to excel in political space, engage. Engage from different levels. In fact, church, you don't become a bishop before you become the pastor, You don't become the minister or whatever before you. So it is very important that we engage at different levels. I had the privilege of working with quite a number of young people during my campaigns. And in the next round, 2017, one of the young people ran for MP. And another one of my young men who was with me ran for MCA. Because they saw they were part of this team planning and going, and they didn't quite win because of many other dynamics. But that is how we prepare. It's part of how we prepare ourselves. And I think if there's something I'm really out of this conversation is really plan. And I do think believers now, even after yesterday's meeting, today's meeting, it's very clear God's calling for us in politics it's not something debatable. We are asked to be part of that space. But let us also be wise and prepared for that space, because it's a lovely, serious space. So preparing and participating, but we need to strategize. Thank you.
Okay, the Honorable Kilimo, anything about the clan? Because that's something you dealt with very briefly so that we get the next round of questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, clan politics is real, although not pronounced in where I came from. Where I was born, I hardly get over 10 votes because they will still view you as that small girl who was here, so it is expected. I am married and born in the same area, but I did get support from where I am married. I got a lot of support from the old men, despite talking against the culture. You know, I became popular on the platform of Stop Female Genital Mutilation. Sometimes that is our culture. But they were still able to see, despite not obeying their culture on one side, I was telling them the truth. Now, I've always stood on the opposite side of the Popular Party. And Professor Sambili here, she's lucky that she could do her campaigns during the day. I had to have my meetings at night because then the administration were not on your side. They would come and disrupt your meetings. I am saying this so that Christians out there who want to vie, sometimes you just have to vie in the parties that will give you a ticket. We've talked about rigging in the primaries. The bigger political parties belong to people. So you have to see where you will get a space to go. And once you're there, be wise and hold the cards right to your chest. Despite having all your campaigners have an open, close-ended kind of engagement with your people. Hear more from them, but on your side, it is closed. so that, as the Bible says, be wise as serpents and gentle as doves. For the kingdom of God suffers violence. We have to grab this thing, Christians, so we have to be wise.
Wow, thank you very much. I think we can take a few more questions.
Thank you, Joe. I have one gentleman here. May I kindly see hands again, please? Allow me. I know if you had spoken in the morning, I'll be a bit biased. Kindly just allow me. So I'll pick a lady at the back, and then if I have more time now, I'll come back to my regulars. Not at the back, at the middle front. Kindly come, so please.
Hi, my name is John Mwangi. I am a pastor. I've also worked in development agencies. So, Honorable Jebii, it's nice to see you, and thank you for supporting the organization, one of them that you've mentioned. I must honor your bravery and your dynamism in getting into politics. I don't know how you did that, but God bless you. We pray for many others to join you. I have 4 questions, so they will be brief. Just brief. One is, did you ever give money? And if you gave, what for? Did you ever refuse to give money during your campaigns? Why, and why did you refuse to give that money? Did you ever feel supported by the church at all? And church here has 2 levels, the clergy and the members. And what was that nature of support that they gave? Since you're talking to church now, what nature of support would you want the church, both at the leadership and the membership level, would you desire to see? Thank you very much.
Thank you for that.
My name is Joy, and I just have 2 questions. The first one is, today we are talking about the rock, on which we stand. And when you look at politics, it is laid on foundations that were laid by people like Niccolo Machiavelli, who stand and say that, politics should not be laid on moral values. They also say that, if you become a politician, you'd rather be feared than respected if you can't do both. Politics is also laid on the foundation of people like Robert Greene, who stand and they have written about the 48 laws of power, an example of crush your enemies totally. And the question is, when I look at you, you are honorable women who we are looking up to, who have not succumbed to standing on this rock that those political fathers had laid. What have you done, or how are you able to put your Christian values on top of these already laid political foundations that are already there? The other question is, we have seen politicians who, most of them actually, they started as even leaders in churches. I have an example of my MC, former. He was a church leader, and we elected him because we knew he's a church leader. But once he got into office, things totally changed. He even became a drunkard. And maybe the question is, how have you been able to stand and become different despite all this? Thank you.
I think we can take those ones. Her last question is connected to a question being asked by a lot of our online viewers, which is about how do you maintain your personal integrity and faith both in public and in private, especially after you have won or when now you're occupying the seat. So I think we can handle those sets of questions first.
All right, thank you very much. We have quite a number of questions and not too many minutes left here, so I will make this like a quick fire sort of. Professor Muthwii, we'll start with you. Did you ever give any money during your campaigns?
The one on money, giving money?
Yes, did you ever give money during your campaigns?
Yes.
What for?
We needed to feed the people that campaign with us, so you must, at the end of the day, give money. Actually, you pay them. You pay them. On Saturday, you had to pay the campaigners. where else did we? So we used money a lot on that and movements from up and down. Then let me be honest.
Did you give handouts,
Yes,
500 here and what?
As coming to that. You finish a meeting and they tell you, sasa unaongea na sisi na hakuna kitu.
And like you don't just talk to us for free.
And they do that. So yes.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, second question. Did you ever get any support from the church? Did you feel supported by the church? No. What kind of support?
Not from the church. From Christians, yes.
What kind of support would you have expected?
From the church? I at least expected them to understand what I was doing.
Okay.
But they showed absolutely no understanding. Actually, their wavelength and conversation and perspective was no different from the people of the world.
Oh, wow. Okay, Suzanne, let's come to you. Did you give money?
Did I give money? Yes. I gave money for services that were rendered. So if I was going somewhere and I'm going to be needing a few people to guide me in a specific place, I give them money for the service that they give me. I paid for t-shirts, I paid for banners, I paid for posters. I gave money for services rendered.
What about the people standing on the road? Like, you can't just leave us like that.
No, actually, I didn't give. And in fact, my size played to my advantage because most people were like, hey, mbona tunaomba mtoto pesa? You know,
like
so...
like, this is a
So
child.
that worked to my advantage.
She doesn't have anything. Support from the church?
Yes, I felt very supported by my home church, which is Sitam Valley Road. I also felt very supported by the Sitam Assembly, not in the sense, they didn't tell anyone to vote for me. But they when I was there, they definitely recognized my presence. They invited me to sessions where we were talking about politics, and I felt that was a support that was given to me. So yes, I felt very supported by the church.
Professor Sambili, for the 10 years that you were out there, did you ever give money? What kind of money? Are there points when you refused to give money?
Yes, I gave money. There is money for facilitation, transport, lunch, and meetings. Those people, the campaigners will go meeting people, or I go meet people. I gave money for facilitation. Sometimes I also gave money for needs. They will come and tell you, there is a child here who is somebody who is sick, there is someone who has no fees. I gave money for that.
Did you refuse at any point to give money?
Did I refuse? I think yes, maybe once or on a few occasions. As you interact with people, you get to know people who are not true. Some who are even coming to spy on what you are doing. You know what Linah said? You keep things close to your chest. So when I got to know some people are not true, yes, I refused.
All right, let's come to the church. Did you get any support from the church? What kind?
I got support from the church in that they defended me. They actually spoke for me. They said, we know this, they know my testimony, they spoke for me. And actually, the reverends, the pastors, I remember they even came home and said, we want to pray for you. And they spoke for me. They just spoke to people. They said, we know this lady, she can do a good job. So I got support from the church. Not financial, but praying for me and talking for me.
All right. The Honorable Kilimo, did you ever give money throughout the 2002, 2012, I think it was? Did you ever give money? Did you refuse at any one point?
Yeah, 2002, I didn't spend a lot of money because I did not have the money, and the people wanted change. So I didn't spend a lot of money by that time. 2007 was rather expensive for me. They said, now, that time you didn't have money. Now you have been in employment, so give us money. And so people would line up, and so you just count when you're in a room, you see these are 20 people, so if everybody's taking 100, so that is 2,000, like that. And you give them for tea because they have sat just like any other sitting allowance. Of course, Even as you gave us lunch because of sitting here. Yes, I did refuse to give money. I never gave money to purchase bullets because I come from an area that is very, there's a lot of insecurity. Every politician who wants to win must be seen to be supporting the buying of guns and bullets. They'll tell you to Nataka. So that one I totally refused because I said I'll not give anything that will shoot somebody's child because that could be also my child. So I never gave that one.
Okay, did you get the support of the church where you were running? And
I didn't want to say that. I only got support from individuals in the church. I did not get from the main church because I was an opposition candidate and people did not want to oppose President Moi in 2002. So everyone was playing safe. Even in 2007 still, I just got individuals from the church. As I said earlier, I had women who were always on their knees praying for me. And so as much I did not also want to antagonize them by asking them to give me space because I got my space out there with Wananchi. Although the Catholic Church were a bit brave, the pastors would occasionally say, you must be able to know between who and who without naming names, but they were a bit conservative. But I knew in secret they were praying for me.
All right, great. I think there are two last questions here. I know that we have just about 2 minutes, so I'll seek indulgence for maybe 3 extra minutes. But the questions as follows. The last one will be the last word for each one of you, how you maintain your integrity, especially for those who have won elections. That will be the two of you here. But how do you engage in politics, yet the principles, the rules, the laws, all these things that we keep hearing, conventional wisdom, as it were, about politics, is all these things like our sister said, crush your enemies, and it's better to be feared than to be loved, and all of these things. How do you run away from that and lay a different foundation so that your politics is not business as usual because you're representing a different value system? We can get quick comments on that from Professor all the way here. Professor Muthwii?
Thank you. I sense that question was more for the people who have been.
No. This one about, how when you engage in politics and yet politics is defined by rules that appear to be different from everything that we believe as Christians.
I think the encouragement is that we should be part of defining those rules. So yes, they would look like they are rules, but just like even what we've mentioned, even did you give money? Money will be given in different forms by different people, but you define how you give money.
Okay.
Yes, so you become part of those defining the rules.
I take that as, let it rest there for now because we are running out of time. Suzanne?
Yes, I'll actually just pick up on that. It's the definition of it. And so how we engage with politics, at least for myself, is based on what is politics. Politics is issues. It's economic issues, it's environmental issues, it's education issues. And so if that is the line that you stick to, that I'll always discuss how we are governed, as opposed to, the rhetoric that most people go in, then it'll kind of dictate how far, how you go in that space.
Thank you. Now, for the two of you, I will end with a question that was asked about how you maintain, especially after you've won. And I'm not being biased here. They're the ones who have won here. All right. So we end with that question. How do you maintain your integrity after you've won the election? Now you are in there, you're a member of parliament or whatever other elected position you might find yourselves in. How do you maintain your integrity, or in our language, how do you maintain your testimony?
For me, trying as much as possible not to miss my board meeting in the morning. In the morning, I have a board meeting between me, and myself and God, and I read the Bible. I go out there in my own world with a conversation of what I think I have decided with God that this is what we are going to do today. It's not easy, but I am informed by whatever I have read that The day I don't read my Bible in the morning, then I feel my heart is beating very fast. There's something I've forgotten. It's like I don't know where I am. And so I really want to thank God that He has helped me to maintain my Christianity. And politics is a calling. It's not about being Bwana Mkubwa or Madam Mkubwa, no. It's about what is it that I want. And I say the talent that I have been given is different from other people. So I have to give an account of these talents. And so how have I maintained my board meeting resolutions in the morning?
All right, thank you very much. Professor Sambili, you had the first word. You'll have the last one as well.
Thank you very much. How did I maintain my testimony? I just was myself. When I became a member of parliament, I thanked God. I saw it as a service, first to God and to the people that I had wanted to really support. So it didn't get into my head. It didn't get into me. In fact, many times I would, like as a minister, I remember going for a meeting abroad, and I had to come early to be able to attend the official opening of parliament. And when I got there, in your passport, they stamp when you went and when you've come back. And I'd come back 6 days before. And there was so much money that remained, about 400,000 plus. So I went to the ministry where I was, and I gave the money to the finance people. I said, I've come early, I'm surrendering this money. That person looked at me and said, why? Why are you doing this? I said, I love the Lord. This is not my money. I have come early, and I said, go pay that money and bring me the receipt. So really, I just lived, like I said, voting with my conscience in parliament. I remember someone asking me, Sambili, how do you manage? Like when I came in one, I was the only one in a party. How do you make it? And we know you don't bribe. I said, I trust God. I pray and I believe God to help me, and I want to honor the Lord. I didn't manage to really pray faithfully or read my Bible faithfully, but I think it is a calling. And like I say, don't tidy your testimony. Assess myself. At home, I come home in the evening, I'm a minister, yes, but I leave it at the door. I'm Mama so and so. I just am myself. So I think that is the best I can share. Just be real, be yourself, stand for the Lord, stand to be counted. Do the right thing, as you know, and of course seek support from brethren. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you very much to our audience, both here and those who are joining us virtually from all around the world. We want to thank you very much for joining us, not just this afternoon, but since this conference began, and we really are grateful for what we have heard, setting the agenda on how to engage. So the engagement is only just beginning. That is why we can't call this the end of this conversation. Indeed, it is just the beginning.